She felt his eyes on her before she saw him. It wasn't lust, not the kind men wore like cheap cologne. This was quieter, slower, hungrier. His gaze didn't skim her skin. It peeled something deeper, like he was reading her thoughts through. The tension in her shoulders and the guarded way she smiled at the world. She didn't know his name, not yet, but every night for a week, he'd sat at the far end of the jazz lounge, never approaching, never missing a night, just watching. She had started to wear her red lipstick again, not for the customers, for him. Carmen was good at not feeling things. She had taught herself silence, taught her heart to beat on cue and her mouth to smile when it should. That was how she survived after Leo. After that kind of betrayal, trust wasn't something you gave. It was something you measured, like medicine, just enough not to die from the ache. But this stranger didn't ask for her trust. He didn't even ask for her time. He just looked at her like she was the last puzzle piece he had been waiting for, and that made him dangerous in a different way. Then one night, he vanished. No empty glass. No coat left behind. Carmen's set ended, and she found herself searching the shadows, something she swore she'd never do again. 2 nights passed, then 3, and on the 4th, she stopped checking. That was when he walked in again, wet from the rain, suit rumpled, eyes darker than she remembered. And this time, he didn't sit in the shadows. He came straight to the bar. "You remember me," he said. Not a question, a quiet statement, like he already knew the answer. "You watch me every night," she replied, not blinking. "Like I was a secret you were trying to memorize." He smiled, but not like most men smile when they think they've won something. His smile was sad, almost guilty. "Because you reminded me of someone I lost." The room got colder, or maybe her heart did. "Don't do that," she said softly. "Don't look at me and see her." "I'm not," he said. "Not anymore." They fell into conversation like two tired dancers finding rhythm again. His name was Elias. He had been a lawyer. Now, he just said he was between things. Carmen didn't press. She knew better. Truth always showed itself when it was ready or when it hurt enough. They met again the next night, and the one after. Soon it became a ritual. Coffee after shows, walks under streetlights, conversations too honest to be casual and too guarded to be real. He asked her once, gently, about Leo. She didn't answer with words. She just looked away and said, "Some ghosts wear wedding rings." He never brought it up again. Then came the night that shattered the rhythm. She was late leaving the lounge, rain making the city feel like a memory. Elias wasn't at the bar. He wasn't outside, but his coat was, folded neatly on the seat he always took. Inside the pocket was a note, just her name, nothing else. Carmen froze. She didn't know why it scared her, but it did. Maybe because it felt like goodbye. Maybe because it felt like a trap. She took the note home, stared at it for hours before opening it. The handwriting was smooth, like everything else about him. "Carmen, there are things I didn't tell you, things I couldn't, but tonight, I need you to trust me. If I don't come back, go to room 407 at the Harlow Hotel. Ask for the key under ward. I hope to explain everything." Her hands shook. Harlow was 5 blocks away. She didn't know if she should go, but she went. The receptionist handed over the key without question. The elevator ride felt like judgment. Room 407 was quiet, dimly lit, and empty. No Elias. No explanation. Just a black folder on the bed. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Some of her. Some of a woman who looked exactly like her. Same eyes. Same smile. Same birthmark behind the ear. Dates. Times. Surveillance footage. Newspaper clippings of a fire. A death. A name, Isabel Ward. Carmen's knees gave out. She clutched the folder as her mind spiraled. The woman in those pictures wasn't her. But it could have been. Then she heard the door open, and Elias walked in, but this time, he was holding a gun. Her breath caught in her throat, paralyzed by the sight of the weapon. Elias didn't raise it. He didn't point it at her. He just closed the door quietly behind him and locked it, like he had done it 1,000 times. Carmen stood slowly, folder still clutched in her hands, her eyes bouncing between his face and the pistol. "What is this?" Her voice cracked. "Who the hell is Isabel Ward?" He didn't answer right away. He moved to the window, looked out like someone expecting to be followed. The silence felt like it was scraping the walls. Then he turned, his expression unreadable. "She was my wife," he said, "and she died in a fire 3 years ago. At least, that's what I thought." Carmen felt like the floor was tilting. I'm not her. I know, he said too quickly. I know you're not, but you look like her. You walk like her. You even hum the same damn songs when you think no one's listening. At first, I thought I was going crazy. Then I started asking questions. Carmen's hands were trembling. What kind of questions? He moved closer slowly, cautiously, like she was a deer ready to bolt. The kind that get people killed. He laid the gun on the table. I'm not here to hurt you, Carmen. But someone else is. And if we don't leave this room in the next 2 minutes, they'll do worse than that. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Nothing made sense. Not the folder. Not the look in his eyes. Not the sudden urgency in his voice. Why me? Because you're not just some singer in a lounge, he said, voice low and full of tension. You're a target, and you don't even know it. Bullshit, she snapped, shoving the folder into his chest. You think I'm some secret twin of your dead wife? That I'm part of a conspiracy? You watched me for weeks, and now you're what? Saving me. Elias didn't flinch. I watched because I had to know if you were her. Then I realized. You weren't, but someone else still thinks you are. And if they believe Isabel Ward's alive, they'll come for you like they came for her. Carmen's heart pounded, flashes of memory hitting her like gunfire. A man in a gray coat who kept showing up outside her building. A wrong number that called her every day at 3:11 a.m. A letter with no return address. All the things she told herself weren't connected. She backed away, clutching her jacket like a shield. You're insane. No, he said calmly. But the people chasing you are. A sudden knock shattered the air. 3 soft taps, then silence. Elias's eyes went hard. Bathroom, now. She didn't move. He grabbed her arm, but not violently. Please, I'll handle it. Just trust me for 2 minutes. Something in his voice cracked her resistance. Carmen slipped into the bathroom, leaving the door slightly ajar. She heard the door open, heard footsteps, male voices. One was Elias. The other sounded older, colder. You said she'd be alone. She was. Plans changed. You're running out of time, Elias. She's not Isabel. You really believe that? Silence. Funny thing, the cold voice continued. DNA doesn't lie. And hers? It's a match. Carmen covered her mouth, breath gone. DNA? A match? The stranger left moments later. Elias stood there, motionless. Then he whispered, You can come out now. Carmen did, but she wasn't the same. What the hell does that mean? A match? He rubbed his face with both hands. I don't know. I wish I did. I had your glass tested after the second night. I was trying to prove you weren't her. I never expected it to say you are. I'm not Isabel Ward. Then someone made you into her. The world tilted again. What are you saying? I think someone rebuilt you, Carmen. Your past. Your memories, maybe even your name. She staggered back. No, my mother's name was Leela. She died when I was 14. I lived in Dayton. I have scars. I remember them. Elias looked at her like she was breaking his heart. Do you? Or do you just remember being told you do? She dropped into the chair, numb. Why would anyone do this to me? He crouched beside her. Because Isabel Ward knew something. Something they wanted buried. And if you're her, then somewhere inside you buried or not you know it too. A phone rang. Not hers. Not his. It was coming from inside the black folder. Elias opened the flap and pulled out a small burner phone. The screen just said, Answer, now. He looked at Carmen. She nodded once. He picked up. A voice, distorted and robotic, came through. Hello, Isabel. We've missed you. If you want to keep the man alive, come to the pier. Midnight. Come alone. The line went dead. Carmen stared at Elias, her voice a whisper. They think I'm her. Elias stared back. They might be right. Outside, thunder rolled in, and somewhere, deep inside her buried under the name Carmen, something remembered the pier. The rain fell harder as midnight neared, turning the city into a smear of lights and shadows. Carmen stood in front of the mirror, staring at a face she suddenly wasn't sure she owned. Her hands trembled as she pulled her coat tighter. Elias had tried to argue, had said he'd go in her place, but Carmen had silenced him with a look. If she was going to be hunted for someone else's life, she'd at least face the hunters with her own damn eyes open. The pier smelled like rust and seawater. Deserted warehouses loomed like sleeping beasts, and every sound echoed with menace. Carmen walked with slow, deliberate steps, her boots splashing through puddles. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to hide, but something deeper pulled her forward. Memory? Or suggestion? She didn't know anymore. A single light glowed at the far end of the dock. She walked toward it, breath misting in the cold air. And then she saw him, Elias. He was on his knees, hands bound behind his back, a deep gash on his temple bleeding into his collar. Behind him stood a man in a dark coat, face obscured by shadows and a tilted fedora. He held a phone in one hand, a pistol in the other. "Hello, Isabel," the man said. The voice matched the call, distorted. "Hello. Or shall we call you Carmen?" Carmen stood still. "I don't know who you think I am. You are what we made," he cut in. "Nothing more. A shell filled with convenient fiction. But you weren't supposed to wake up." "What are you talking about?" she said, her voice shaking. The man stepped closer. Rain glinted off his coat. Isabel Ward faked her death to protect information that could tear down very powerful people. She had the data. We had the motive. And we had the means to erase her. Carmen's blood ran cold. "Erase?" He nodded. "Erase? Rebuild. Rewrite. A little facial reconstruction, neural implants, memory suppression, and a new identity, gifted to you like a mercy." Carmen Lewis, lounge singer, clean slate. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible." The man smiled without humor. "Then why do your fingerprints match a dead woman? Why does your blood carry her markers? Why does your mind keep leading you back to places only she knew?" Carmen staggered back. "You're lying." He pointed the gun at Elias. "Does it feel like a lie?" Elias lifted his head, blood dripping from his lip. "Don't believe him, Carmen. Even if you were her, you're you now. She's a liability," the man continued. "But you can choose. Walk away now. Leave him. Forget all of this. We'll even let you live. Or stay. And remember." Carmen's hands clenched. The offer dangled in the air like poison. She looked at Elias, bruised, bleeding, loyal. And then she did something no one expected. She laughed out. It was soft at first, then louder, a little unhinged. The man stepped back, gun still trained. "What's so funny?" Carmen looked up, her eyes gleaming with something cold and ancient. "You think I'm still afraid? That I'm some puppet you built? But here's the thing. If you gave me her face, her body, her voice, maybe you gave me her rage too." In one motion, she stepped forward and slammed her heel into the pier boards. A hidden click. The man froze. "You didn't think I'd remember everything, did you?" she said. He tried to move, but it was too late. The explosion was small but violent beneath his feet. A buried device erupted, sending him flying into the water. Elias ducked instinctively, the shockwave knocking him sideways. Carmen rushed forward, knife drawn from inside her sleeve, and cut his binds. He stared at her in stunned silence. "How did you?" "I didn't remember," she panted. Not until he said, "Wake up." That word had unlocked something. "I planted that charge 2 years ago." Isabel did. "I must have buried it so deep, even I couldn't find it until now." Elias touched her face gently. "So, you are her?" She looked at him, eyes flickering with something new. "I'm not sure who I am anymore. But whoever she was, whoever I am, I'm not running anymore." He stood, limping slightly, but alive. "They'll come for you again. I know," she said, voice steel. "Then we'll go to them first." Behind them, the water rippled. A shape surfaced. The man wasn't dead. His coat floated beside him as he clung to the pier's edge, half conscious, bleeding but breathing. And then Carmen heard it, a faint click in her own ear. A voice, deeper and clearer than the one before, whispered through a tiny device she hadn't known she was wearing. "Protocol 6 has been triggered. Phase 2 begins now." She turned to Elias, stunned. "What the hell is Phase 2? He went pale. "I don't know." But that voice, it wasn't theirs. That wasn't them. The city lights behind them flickered, and somewhere, far away, a different power had just woken up. They ran. Not because they were scared, though fear pulsed in Carmen's throat with every heartbeat, but because instinct screamed louder than questions. Elias gripped her hand like it was the only thing anchoring him to the world as they fled. The pier, ducking into alleyways, dodging cameras they hadn't noticed before. Behind them, the city was changing. Lights flickered, drones buzzed overhead, and strange, almost mechanical static whispered from every speaker they passed. "Protocol 6, Phase 2. The words rattled inside Carmen's skull like keys to a locked door she didn't know how to open. They reached an old train station, long abandoned and covered in graffiti. Elias kicked down a rusted panel, revealing a narrow stairwell beneath. He didn't explain how he knew it was there, and she didn't. Ask. They descended into silence and dust, breathing hard, the weight of too many truths pressing into the stale air. When they finally stopped, Carmen turned to him, voice raw. Who else knew about Isabel? Elias was pacing, thinking faster than he could talk. Nobody alive. The ones who erased her. They were part of something off the books. Real shadow government kind of thing. But if that voice in your ear wasn't them, then someone else was watching. Carmen finished it for him. Someone with access. Elias stopped. The voice. Did it sound familiar? No, she said, then hesitated. But it felt familiar, like a shadow in a dream. She pulled the earpiece out, examined it. Tiny, smooth, nothing identifying. I never put this in, she whispered. Which means it was put into me. He stepped forward. Carmen, when they erased Isabel, they didn't just change your face. They implanted something. Maybe to track, maybe to control. But what if it was more? What are you saying? He pointed to her head. What if you're not just remembering Isabel's life? What if parts of her are still alive inside you? The idea made her knees weak. Like a second person? Or a backup system? A contingency? Then what's phase 2? A screen on the wall lit up. Static. Then a flickering symbol. A triangle with an eye inside. Beneath it. Project Isabel. Reactivation in progress. Carmen stumbled back. What the hell is this? The voice returned, no longer robotic, clear, female, and eerily calm. Hello, Isabel. This is a posthumous activation. If you're seeing this, your death has failed. Contingency Protocol 6 has now engaged. Your memories will resume integration. Phase 2 requires your immediate cooperation. Elias reached for the screen. Who's speaking? I am Isabel Ward, or what's left of me. Carmen's heart stopped. The screen showed her face. Not her current one, the one from before. The one she'd only seen in old clippings, surveillance stills. The real Isabel. You built me to survive you. The voice continued. You knew they would come. You buried yourself in a copy, your voice, your fingerprints, your instincts. But now, the world needs what you knew. What did I know? Carmen whispered. The screen flickered. Maps, names, coordinates, secret experiments, hidden prisons, and then faces, dozens of them, men and women, victims, whistleblowers, people listed as dead, all connected to something called Horizon Wing. Elias leaned closer. That's the project they were silencing. Genetic trials, artificial identity manipulation, God-level brainwashing. Carmen touched her temple, and Isabel found proof. The screen cut back to Isabel's digital face. They used me. I found them. And when I got too close, they burned me. But I refused to die, so I became you. Now I need you to become me again. Carmen whispered. How? By remembering everything. Pain lanced through her head like a wire yanked loose. She screamed, staggered, dropped to the ground. Elias caught her before she hit the concrete. Her vision swam. Names, images, a hallway with glass walls, a woman in restraints screaming her name, Isabel. Before guards dragged her away, blood, flames, the number 2739 etched into her wrist. A code whispered in a lover's ear just before a bullet took him. And then a child, no older than 8, sitting in a dark room, staring at a camera. Carmen's voice, Isabel's voice whispering. The girl is the failsafe. If I don't make it, protect her. The vision vanished. Carmen gasped, clutching Elias like she'd just been ripped from the edge of space. There's a child. She's still out there. They're going to erase her like they tried to erase me. Elias stared at her. Where? I don't know, but I will. Behind them, the floor shook. A low rumble echoed through the tunnel. They weren't alone anymore. A spotlight burned through a wall grate. Then came the sound of boots. Dozens. Carmen turned to Elias, fire rising in her again. They came to erase the past. She stood, teeth bared. Let's make sure they remember us instead. Gunfire cracked through the underground like thunder. Trying to remember how to scream, Elias pulled Carmen into the shadows just as a wall exploded where they'd been standing, sending concrete and steel flying. The attackers were black faces, hidden, movements coordinated, no hesitation. Not police, not military, something colder, something private. Carmen's heart raced, but her hands were steady now. Too steady. She moved like she'd done this before, dodging debris, calculating angles, eyes sharp and cruel with clarity. Left tunnel, she shouted. It'll lead to the old sub-access grid. We can box them in. Elias blinked at her. How do you Remember, they moved, darting through rusted corridors and flickering lights. The tunnel was a maze, but Carmen led with purpose now, like the walls themselves whispered where to turn. Her head throbbed with every step, memory bleeding into instinct, shadows from another life crawling back into the light. They reached the grid station. Thick pipes, flooded metal floors, a central valve room. "Help me shut the gates," she ordered. Elias obeyed. Steel slammed down behind them as they locked entry points, slowing their pursuers. Carmen accessed a control panel and typed a 6-digit code she hadn't known minutes ago. It worked. The generators hummed. Emergency lights glowed blue. Elias watched her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You're not just remembering, are you? You're becoming her." Carmen didn't answer. She couldn't, because deep inside, she didn't know if there was still a difference. They huddled beside a broken monitor, catching their breath. Elias leaned in. "That girl, the one in your memory, she's the failsafe." Carmen nodded. Her name was Ava. "She's not just a survivor. She's the key to proving Horizon Wing exists. Then we find her, and we kill anyone who tries to stop us." A beat of silence. Then Elias asked the question neither of them wanted to say out loud. "What if finding her means losing you?" Carmen didn't blink. "Then Isabel finishes what she started. I'd rather vanish with a purpose than live as someone else's mistake." Suddenly, the control panel beeped. A message appeared. "Location found. Ava Ward Site 9 Arcadia Institute. Status lockdown." Beneath it, a countdown began. 04, 00, 00. Carmen's fingers clenched. "They're going to erase her." Elias frowned. "What's the Arcadia Institute?" She looked at him, her voice low. "A government think tank, but off the books. No press, no oversight. They test neural tech, memory implants, identity wipes. It's where I died the first time." The air felt colder. She stood, eyes burning. "We've got 4 hours." Elias rose too. "Then we burn it down." They climbed out of the access tunnels and emerged into the edge of the city, grimy, broken, and forgotten. Carmen hotwired a delivery truck without flinching. Elias took the passenger seat, watching her with a mix of awe and fear. "You okay?" he asked. She didn't answer. Her fingers were twitching again, tracing invisible patterns on the steering wheel. She wasn't Carmen right now. Not completely. They drove hard across the city, swerving through red lights and dead intersections, racing toward a place only ghosts remembered. Along the way, Carmen whispered things under her breath. Names, access codes, warnings. Then somewhere between districts she froze. "What?" Elias asked. She turned to him slowly. "There's something wrong." The dashboard flickered. The radio cut in. Not music. Not static. A voice. "You found the girl. But do you remember why?" Elias reached for the knob. It wouldn't turn off. "She's not your daughter, Isabel. She's your clone." Carmen's breath left her body. "She's what you used to. Test phase 0. The prototype. Your test subject. You called her Ava, but that was never her name." The truck veered. Carmen slammed the brakes. Tires screamed. They skidded to a halt near a bridge, headlights bouncing off rain-slick cement. Carmen stared out the windshield, eyes wide. I created her?" Elias shook his head. "No, that can't be." The voice continued, smooth and merciless. "She's dying. Her mind is fracturing. Unless the source you completes the transfer, she'll collapse. You'll survive. She won't. That's how you designed it." The radio went dead. Carmen sat there, numb. The truth clawed its way up her throat. She hadn't been protecting Ava. She had been using her, or at least, Isabel had. "I made her into a failsafe," Carmen whispered. "But she's not a lock. She's a vessel. She's carrying fragments of me, and they're killing her." Elias gripped her arm. "So what do we do?" Her eyes filled with fire. "We break the system. We save her. And we erase all of it. Horizon Wing, Arcadia, every last trace." "But how?" She turned to him, voice steady and cold. "By giving them what they want." "What's that?" Her lips curled into a grim smile. "Me." In the distance, Arcadia's towers rose like jagged teeth, and above them, a drone circled slowly, sending back footage of Carmen's face as she whispered something under her breath. "I remember everything." The Arcadia Institute loomed ahead like a wound stitched into the skyline. No signs, no markings, just a fortress of glass and steel wrapped in silence. Carmen parked the truck 3 blocks away. The city around them was dead quiet, the kind of quiet that didn't feel natural. Elias checked his sidearm. Carmen checked the needle-thin drive she'd extracted from behind her ear, an implant she hadn't known was there until the voice on the radio started bleeding memories back into her mind. This is what they were after all along, she said. It's not just me, it's what's inside me, a digital key, a trigger. If I get close enough to Arcadia's mainframe, I can shut down the entire Horizon network. Elias looked at her. What happens to you? Carmen didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence was answer enough. They approached through an underground maintenance tunnel, a route Isabel had used before. Carmen led the way, steps guided by instincts she hated to trust, but couldn't ignore. Lights flickered overhead. The hum of distant servers grew louder, and somewhere in that maze of labs and steel a child was dying. 3 security drones passed above them, but Carmen moved without hesitation, slipping through shadow like it was memory. When they reached the reinforced gate that led into Arcadia's central wing, she stopped, one hand resting on cold metal. She's in there, she said. And so am I. Elias pressed his hand to her back. We do this together. No, she said gently. You're not part of this loop. If I don't make it out, you're the only one who'll remember who I really was. I won't leave you. She smiled, broken and beautiful. Then come find me on the other side. She entered the code. 2739. The gate opened with a low groan. What waited beyond was not a lab. It was a museum of horrors. Glass walls held pods, rows of women, all in various states of awareness. Sleeping, screaming, fading, all of them. Versions of her, slightly different faces, hair, skin tone, but the same eyes. Elias cursed under his breath. They weren't just replacing you, they were duplicating you. Then they found her. Room 11A. The girl was strapped to a chair. Monitors screamed warnings. Neural bleed, cognitive collapse. Her pulse was weak, her hands twitching. Carmen's own body jolted when she saw her. Ava. But now she could see it. No. 8-year-old girl, more like 15. No fear in her eyes, just pain. Recognition. Isabel, the girl whispered. You came back. Carmen stepped closer. You remember me? You built me to forget, Ava said softly. But I didn't. Not everything. She reached up weakly and touched Carmen's face. You're tired. I'm sorry, Carmen whispered, voice cracking. I thought I was saving you. I was just trying to save myself. Ava smiled. You were always afraid to die. Carmen blinked fast. I'm not anymore. Suddenly, alarms screamed through the hall. Red lights flared. Arcadia was waking up. A glass wall slammed shut behind Elias, trapping him outside the chamber. Carmen spun. He pounded the glass. No, Carmen, get her out and let's run. She turned to the control panel beside Ava's chair. A prompt blinked. Transfer core identity to host. Warning. Process is irreversibly is shouted. What are you doing? Carmen placed the drive into the slot. Ending the loop. Confirm. Y or N? Ava looked up at her. Will it hurt? Carmen crouched beside her. Yes, but then it'll stop hurting forever. She pressed Y. The room filled with light. Ava screamed. Carmen convulsed. Memories spilled in both directions, splitting, merging, rewriting. Carmen saw Isabel's life, Ava's life, her own life all crashing into one another. And then everything went still. The monitors flatlined. The chamber opened. Elias ran to them. Carmen was crumpled on the floor, still, eyes closed. Ava lay limp in the chair, then gasped. Her eyes snapped open, and they were Carmen's eyes. Elias knelt beside her, heart racing. Carmen, the girl, no. The woman reached for his hand. I remember you, she said. I remember everything. Behind them, Arcadia's power grid overloaded. Explosions tore through the walls. Systems crashed. Pod chambers shorted out. But Ava Carmen walked forward through fire, out of the ruins, holding Elias's hand like she'd never let go. They didn't speak again until they reached the surface. He asked, finally, who are you now? And she answered, the last version. But far above them, in an orbiting satellite feed, a new alert flashed on a secure terminal. Core transfer complete, subject stabilized, backup active, initiating phase 3, and in the darkness of an undisclosed lab, a new set of eyes opened, a perfect copy of Ava, smiling. The new Ava stood in a chamber of glass and wires, blinking like a child seeing light for the first time. But she wasn't a child, not anymore, not ever really. Her skin bore no scars, no signs of struggle. Her heartbeat was perfect, too perfect. monitored by a dozen machines, each feeding data into systems buried deep beneath the earth. A voice crackled through the speakers. Calm, female, cold. Phase 3 has begun. Elsewhere, Carmen, what was left of her, sat in the back of a moving train, her fingers tracing the frost on the window. She didn't remember boarding it. Elias sat beside her, bandaged, watching her with a weight in his eyes that words couldn't hold. The ruins of Arcadia still burned behind them, glowing on the horizon like a grave that refused to die. They'd made it out alive. They'd shut it down. Or so they thought. You haven't said anything in an hour, Elias said softly. She didn't look at him. Because I don't know which version of me is talking. He didn't press. He just waited. I remember Isabel's life, she whispered, and Ava's pain. I remember being Carmen. The loneliness, the music, the ache that never left. I'm all of them, and none of them. Then who are you now? She turned to him, her voice a rasp. I'm the piece that didn't break. In her hand, she clutched a data crystal, one last secret Ava had stored away before the transfer. Carmen hadn't told Elias yet. Not about the satellite, not about the backup, not about the other Ava, the one that hadn't died, the one they hadn't saved. She'd seen it in the final flash of memory, buried inside Ava's fractured thoughts. A failsafe within the failsafe, a clone of a clone, a shadow with no soul. She hadn't told Elias because some things were worse than death, and that girl, that echo of her, was still out there. They arrived in a forgotten city on the edge of the world, fog-covered, silent, nameless. A contact met them at the station, a woman in a tattered coat who spoke in code. Carmen handed her the crystal. She didn't ask what they would do with it. She knew. Burn it, hide it, make it disappear. But before the woman left, she paused. There's something you should know, she said. Arcadia wasn't the end. It was just a branch. The core project, it's older, deeper. They called it Echo Garden. Carmen went still. Elias narrowed his eyes. Where is it? The woman shook her head. Off-grid, underground, Eastern Bloc black site. You don't find Echo Garden. It finds you. Later that night, Carmen stood alone beneath a broken street lamp, listening to the quiet. Elias slept. In the room above the inn, he hadn't seen the message she'd found on her new com, sent from nowhere. From someone. Just 3 words. She remembers you. She didn't sleep that night. In the morning, she walked out into the mist. Elias followed. No questions asked. They didn't speak of Phase 3. They didn't speak of the girl with her face growing up in a lab she had never seen. They just kept moving. Across borders. Through old cities. Into places Isabel Ward had once erased from every map. Because Carmen wasn't running anymore. She was hunting. And as she disappeared into the fog, one last signal pulls from orbit, silent and patient. Subject active, project Echo initiated replication. Stable directive. Observe. Adapt. Replasathy knew. Ava sat in her white room, drawing pictures with red ink. All of them were of Carmen, and everyone showed her dying.